After the Fair, a short story by Dylan Thomas, abridged for radio by Michael Apichella. The fair was over. One by one in every booth, the naphtha jets were turned down and the canvases pulled over the little gaming tables. The lights in the coconut stalls were put out, and the wooden horses stood still in the darkness. The crowd had gone home, and there were lights in the windows of the caravans. No one had noticed the girl as she stood all alone on the deserted ground, surrounded by the shapes of wooden horses and cheap fairy boats. Now here, now there, she looked for a place to sleep. She raised the canvas that shrouded the coconut stall, but was frightened to enter. A mouse scampered across the littered wood shavings on the floor. She walked up on the roundabouts and leaned on one of the big grinning horses. There was nowhere for her to sleep. She walked to the astrologer's tent and put her hand against a pile of dry hay to lie down. But it moved, and the girl found her hand against the tiny hand of a baby's. Running away from the fair, the girl made her way to the caravans. Perhaps there she would find somewhere to stay. At last she knocked on the smallest, shabbiest caravan at the end of the long line. Standing on her tiptoes, she saw through the window the fattest man she'd ever seen sitting in front of the stove, toasting a piece of bread on the end of a fork.
"Who is it?"
The girl couldn't help laughing at the sound of his voice and hid behind the door.
"First you knock, then you hide, then you laugh."
She opened the door.
"A girl! Come in, wipe your feet."
"Shall I close the door?" she said, but he did not reply. She sat down on the little bed opposite the fat man and watched as he resumed his toasting. "I can toast better than you."
"I don't doubt it."
He put the charred bread on a plate by his side and took another slice of bread on his fork and held it over the stove. That one, too, burnt very quickly. "Let me toast it for you." He handed her the fork. "Cut it, toast it, and eat it." The girl got up from the bed and sat beside the stove, holding the fork over it. "See the dent you've made in my bed. Who are you to come and dent my bed?" "My name is Annie." Soon all the bread was toasted and buttered, so she put them on a plate on the fold-out table and arranged 2 chairs. "I'll have mine on the bed. You have it at the table." When they had finished their supper, the fat man looked up at the girl and said, "I am the fat man. My home is Treorchy. The fortune-teller next door is Aberdare." "I am Cardiff."
"Now there's a town. Tell me, why did you come away?"
"Money." Then the fat man told her about the fair and the places he'd been to and the people he'd met. He told her his age and his weight, the names of his brothers and sisters, and what he would call his son. He showed her a picture of Boston Harbor and his mother who lifted weights. He told her how summer looked in Ireland.
"I've always been a fat man, and now I am the fat man, and there's no one to touch me for fatness."
He told her of a heat wave in Sicily and of the Mediterranean Sea. She told him of the baby in the astrologer's tent. The fat man opened the door and went out into the darkness. She looked about her wondering if he had gone to fetch a policeman, but she huddled closer to the fire. Better to be arrested in the warm rather than in the cold dark.
See what the stars have done,
said the fat man, carrying the baby gently in his big white hands. Let me have him. And she took the baby, nursing it close to her breast. I was afraid you were going to fetch a policeman.
What would I want with a policeman?
Policemen want to catch me.
And what have you done for a policeman to be after you?
But she did not answer, and held the baby closer against her thin shoulder.
You must eat more, Cardiff. Oh, stop it! What can we do to stop it? Sing it a lullaby.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain. For we sing. There's only one thing. We must take it on the merry-go-round. And with the child's arm around her neck, she stumbled down the steps into the deserted fair, with the fat man panting behind her. She found her way to the stalls and tents, and climbed up onto the merry-go-round, where the wooden horses were still waiting. She climbed up into a saddle. Start the engines, fat man. The girl saw the fat man cranking the engine. The boards rattled under the horse's feet. She saw the fat man get up by her side, pull the central lever, and climb on the saddle of the smallest horse of all. As the roundabout started, slowly at first, but gaining speed, the child in the girl's arms stopped crying and clapped its hands. The night wind tore through the child's hair. The music jangled in its ears. Round and round the wooden horses sped, drowning the sound of the wind with the beating of their hooves. And so the men from the caravans found them, the fat man and the girl with the baby in her arms, racing round and round on their mechanical steeds to the ever-increasing music of the organ.